All right, if we could rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as we always do, and see everyone stands now, which I like. To remember our servicemen, especially right now, all year, but it's Thanksgiving. I have close friends, many of you do, who are in Afghanistan tonight. They'll be there Thanksgiving. Thanks. So before I start, Sean? This is Sean Lackahan, and most of you know him, some may not. He's our cameraman. I want to make sure this is on camera. You know what I'm doing?
No.
You don't?
No.
That's good. That's good. Is it there, Gina? Okay, so I was just told a few minutes ago that I'm not sure what this means. It depends on what age you are of what this means. I heard he hit the big one. Now, the big one to me might be something different than a young kid like that, you know. You know, yeah, that's like that. But I think it's 40. And we're not going to say, but he hit the big one. So we want to say happy birthday to you.
I appreciate that.
Okay, you want to sing? You want them to sing?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
What, 20?
You look much younger.
Oh, thank you.
My waist is bigger.
49? Okay, folks, thank you for that. Public comment on agenda items, please. Okay. Next, I'll open a public hearing at, I guess it's 7:07, Gina? Local law amending chapter 108 to add to chapter 108 electric vehicle charging station. All this has to do with is that we're adding the electric charging station to the code for of parking meters. Same code as the parking meters. So amending Chapter 108 of the Village Code to add electric vehicle charging station, whereas the introductory local law titled amending Chapter 108 of the Village Code to add electric vehicle charging station was introduced before the Board of Trustees of the Village of Highland Falls on the 6th of November 2017. And whereas upon notice duly published and posted, a hearing was held on said local law on the 20th of November 2017. Whereas public discussion was heard concerning the merits of said local law, and after hearing from all those present wishing to speak and acknowledging that no written comments have been received, the Board of Trustees declares the public hearing closed, and we'll see if we have a motion. So again, is there any public comment? There was an ad in the News of the Highlands talking about tonight, introducing this local law. Any comments? Any written comments received? No. Now therefore be resolved that the introductory local law entitled amending chapter 108 of the Village Code to add electric vehicle charging station of the Village of Highland Falls be and is hereby adopted as local law number 2 of 2017 of the Village of Highland Falls on the 20th of November 2017. Now that I'm saying that in anticipation it will pass. So, no public comment being received, no written comment being received. I'll close the public hearing at 9 minutes after 7. You covered, Gina? Thank you. Mayor's report. I would like to just thank a few folks here, and if anyone else, even in the audience, knows of someone else, there's always more than what I think of. I want to thank the Grace Baptist Church. Every year they give the senior citizens a turkey dinner, and they did again this year, last week. Rotary just has donated a couple of trees up at the north end where two came down, and they're about 8-9 feet high already, and I think Rotary might be doing more to come.
Well, we put in the 2 oaks
Mhm.
and a purple plum and Lady Clip.
I believe this past Saturday, a couple of young fellas got together and donated their time. One of them is Mike Jones, and did a lot of work over at the Little League field. There's been a lot of work. Dimitri Selby also spearheaded the job with some other young guys to do improvements on their own at the Little League field, and so it's much, much appreciated. The Veterans Day ceremony went very well. The American Legion hosted. I want to thank the 2 police chiefs, I think one's around the corner there, for their presentations at the chamber meeting. In a couple of days, Thanksgiving dinner will be at the Holy Innocents Church. They've been doing that for a few years, and really, you get everything from soup to nuts. You can go there and have it and enjoy the company. You can have it picked up, and possibly if you're homebound, you can have it delivered. This one brings a smile. They all bring a smile to my face, but West Point football, you can't beat it. Can't beat it. Right, sir? They're the best.
Be Navy.
Be Navy. And O'Neill football. So both local teams had winning seasons. O'Neill football and West Point football. And O'Neill was represented at the state cross country meets. Carl Tice, Sam Miller, and Tony Joga went to from O'Neill went to the state cross country meets. So we like that kind of stuff. New business. You have the minutes before you. If we could approve them as written.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by trustee Murphy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by trustee Livesey. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So now let's do the resolution that I've already read. Local law number 2, 2017, amending the 108 to add electric vehicle charging stations. Again, this is just going into the parking meter code. We'll probably treat that space very similar, if not totally similar, to vehicles in meter spaces, but that's to be determined. And also the cost will be determined. So if I could have a motion, I'm sorry, if I could have a motion to adopt this resolution, it would be timely.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by trustee Livesey, is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Howard, roll call.
Trustee Howard,
Aye.
trustee Livesey,
Aye.
trustee Ramus,
Aye.
trustee Murphy,
Aye.
Mayor D'Onofrio.
Aye. Motion carries, thank you.
Can I just ask, what's the timetable on that going in?
Fair question. Winter's coming, we need concrete, cement work. Anytime from, I want to say soon, but what does soon mean?
By spring?
Yeah, oh, for sure by spring, for sure. Okay, thank you. We have some budget amendments. Whereas whereas $2,132.38 has been received from the former Highland Falls LDC, and whereas this revenue has been designated to offset costs of the lighting projects, I'll say Christmas lighting project. Now therefore it be resolved that due to unanticipated revenue from the former Highland Falls LDC, the Board of Trustees approves the amendment to increase the appropriation budget of A.7120.0400 beautification contingent, and the revenue code A2705, gifts and donations for $2,132.38 in fiscal year 17-18. If I could have a motion to approve that.
Motion to approve.
Motion by trustee Murphy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Howard, may I have roll call?
Trustee Howard,
Aye.
trustee Livesey,
Aye.
trustee Ramus,
Aye.
trustee Murphy,
Aye.
Mayor D'Onofrio.
Aye. So this next budget transfer has to be, that was accepting the donation. Now we're gonna transfer it.
You accepted that and you put it right into beautification.
All right, so we don't
Now
have-
you're doing the transfer from contingency to cover the rest.
Okay. So now the second motion I need approved is from A.1990.1990 to account A7120.0400. Description, contingency, and beautification. So we're taking it from contingency and putting it into beautification.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by trustee Livesey, second by trustee Murphy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Does everyone understand what we did there? Does anyone have any questions?
I think it's worth pointing out
Yeah.
that this money is over a 2-year period for the lighting.
Oh, yeah.
It's this year and next year.
All right, folks. MHE stands for our Magui Hauser and Etzel. That's our engineering company. Agreement for engineering services in reference to the replacement of the belt filter press in the wastewater treatment plant of $60,000. We need that approved so that the engineer can start the process of coming up with the specs, which will take a couple of months. We hope to go out to bid by February.
Jim, you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll make a motion.
Motion by trustee Livesey, is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Ramus, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Again, from our engineer, an agreement for basic design and bid package for Havens Road, which is a FEMA project, $6,000.
I make a motion.
Motion by trustee Howard, is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Murphy, to approve a bid package for Havens Road to our engineer for $6,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Third and last one from our engineer, an agreement to do basic design and bid package 2017 paving project, $7,500.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by trustee Livesey, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Ramus, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I'd like to have authorization to sign the intermunicipal agreement with Orange County Department of Emergency Services for 2 Toughbook laptops. Chief, would you like to take a minute and explain this?
Well, we already got the 2 laptops.
Right.
We kind of moved so swiftly, we got ahead of the IMA, so this is a formality.
Okay,
So we've already received them.
and they're working?
Yes. Yep, they're all updated and ready to roll.
Great, thank you. So, may I have authorization to sign this contract with Orange County Department of Emergency Services?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by trustee Ramus, is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Murphy, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Next, parking meters, as most people know, we suspend the parking meters from December 1, 2017, to including January 2, 2018 for the month of December. We want people to shop local, and hopefully this helps. We also want to remind everyone that this Saturday is Small Business Saturday. Try to shop local as much as you can. We'd appreciate that. Stores would appreciate it. So if we can have a motion to suspend the parking meters for the month of December to January 2, 2018.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by trustee Livesey, second by trustee Howard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, motion carried. Next, you have a letter about a water bill. Let's just take a moment to read it. It was received today. Person had a possible pipe leaking. Upon inspection, found that there was also a toilet running. I can tell you something, this is gonna open up a can of worms.
Well, it's been the policy of the board. It's crushing when something like this happens, but the water was used, and we have always held true to the water bill. If it went to the house. In the past, under certain circumstances, we have talked about forgiving a portion of the sewer bill because presumably
It's
there
gonna
was no
reflect on that,
sewerage.
yeah.
But, well, actually, in this
But
instance,
this
there
one's
would,
different.
yeah,
This
it
one's
wasn't a
it's
leak.
gonna reflect.
This one's a little
outside the
different
house.
because it did go into the
Yeah.
sewage, into the sewer.
So actually, this one
Right.
probably wouldn't meet any criteria for forgiveness.
That means there's almost gonna be a double in that sewer bill, am I right in assuming that?
You're right.
Well, these are things that we don't like to have on our plate, but there are things that do come to our plate, so I'll say I'll move on unless there's a motion to do something here. I'm hearing there isn't, so.
Well, no, discussion.
Okay.
If that sewer bill's gonna go double, there must be something we can do, we talking.
Well, right now, we're just talking about the water bill, and,
But it's gonna affect.
oh,
the
it
sewer.
will,
Sewer.
definitely, but, this is absolutely analogous to another senior citizens water bill that we did not forgive. So, you know, I can't see myself voting to forgive this bill, or a portion of it.
You said the sewer bill and the water bill?
No, I'm just talking about the
No,
water
I
bill.
understand.
And the other one, I don't think the person challenged the sewer bill
No.
because it did go into the sewer system,
Okay.
as you were pointing out.
Any further discussion? All right, I'm going to move on. We have bills and claims for fiscal year 17-18 of $100,862.33. I know the bills were reviewed downstairs. I saw it.
I make a motion?
Motion by trustee Howard to pay the bills. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by trustee Murphy, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, motion carried. Before I do board comment, I'd like to just go over this. We do have the chief of the fire department here. Thanks, Eric. And Eric, I want to say something. Lately, the last few days, I've been hearing the whistle a lot. And it's times that I'm in bed. I go to bed early, but this happened to be during the night, like we're talking 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I hear it a lot. So I lay there and I know what's going on. I lay there, but I know what's going on. Other people are getting up, you know? So we, to appreciate it, that's a word. But you guys are worth your weight.
There's a dedicated group there.
It's a dedicated group.
Deserves the credit, yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to get at, so please take it back to them. I don't care if it's at noontime or midnight, but when I hear it early in the morning, You gotta get up. Thank you. So, in your letter here, you had 103 calls for the year so far, to the end of October. Recent training topics for the department included dryer and laundromat fires, ropes and knots, advancing hose lines for fire attack, live fire training at the Orange County Fire Training Center with Cornwall and Hudson Fire Department. In early December, our members will receive their annual medical exams, blood pressure training, and workplace violence prevention training. In September, we awarded the bid to the Municipal Emergency Services for a combined project to upgrade the existing self-contained breathing apparatus, as well as purchase 5 new units and 30 new air cylinders.
There was a little, I mean, I think we expected to be done by this point. There was a little parts issue. But we had we did this by RFP to try to save money. The RFP has ended up protecting us in this, that this project's gonna cost more, but it's not gonna cost us more. So at least in the 10 grand range, we saved just because we had the right verbiage there. So we're waiting a little bit longer, but in the end, we're gonna get a good product and save some money and be where we need to be, so.
Thank you. I'm not worried. Not that you're asking me if I am. I'm telling you, I'm not worried about the fire department because because I was there for a long time. And I know what you do. And I know what your officers do. And I know the caring for training is utmost. That's why the guys and the ladies are safe. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. Thank you. Presumptive cancer coverage for volunteer firemen. Recently, the governor signed a bill that passed both the Assembly and the Senate that gives cancer coverage to volunteer firefighters. The bill is not retroactive and becomes effective on January 1, 2019. The bill will require the village to provide coverage for our eligible members. Instead of explaining all the specifics of the bill, I've attached frequent asked questions, which they are here, they're good, I read it today.
Right, so the only thing I wanna point out is it's, obviously it's not discretionary, but, realize that it's the number of interior firefighters. We'll start obviously trying to get some numbers, but I don't think it's gonna be catastrophic burden to the budget, right? You know, they do show a figure from another state that enacted it, right? That was like 300 a person, but realize that's less of a number than you may think. We don't have to cover every person that's a member, just certain specific. And I think we're on the forefront of that thing there where, you know, we already do the proper physicals to screen people when they're coming in. We actually have a procedure that I don't think anybody else in Orange County has yet, where we do decon on the scene before we leave because of, you know, the known carcinogens. I mean, we're trying to do industry best practices, because obviously coverage is one thing, but we don't want anybody getting cancer. I mean, it is about safety, you know, so.
Thank you.
So we're on top of it, but it will be part of the budget.
Thank you.
We'll figure it out.
All right, next I have a letter here from Steve Newhouse, the county executive, that we've been awarded $80,000, Main Street sidewalk improvements. Paperwork between now and then will still need to be done, but as it says here, we anticipate the community development block grant funds will be available June of 2018. As soon as they are, we will go out to get specs and to do these sidewalks. I have a letter here. Did they all get the letter to the building department? Were you able to give that to them?
Oh, the letter that we sent to
From
them.
me?
I put a copy on the desk,
Okay.
but not in
So,
each box.
this is downstairs. This is a letter dated today that I sent to the building department, and in this particular second paragraph, it points out some of the sections in the building department agreement between the village and town that I'm asking to be adhered to, which is that we get weekly reports on activity in the village. So we know, like, I don't know the update on, do you know, Jim? I don't know the update, and then this would make that happen because it's part of the agreement. It's a document I haven't looked at in a while. I looked at it and,
And I was looking at the copy you gave me, I was gonna actually.
yeah,
talk
so
about
we'll
this.
have that, yeah. New York State Department of Transportation, this comes from our engineer. To increase safety at crosswalks, improvements at crosswalks are eligible under the grant. Our office is still studying the guidelines to determine what improvements are or are not available or eligible under the grant. The minimum grant amount is $250,000. So I'll be talking to the engineer and Mr. Howard, because it has to do with the highway department, and Gary will put our heads together and maybe present something to the board as to what we would like to possibly put in for it. The paving is done on all the streets that I had shown a few weeks ago. I'm glad. These streets needed to be done in the worst way. I was worried about the weather, but it's all been completed, and it seems like everyone's happy. Central Hudson will be coming soon to put new gas lines in Mearns Avenue, Oak and Berry. We're going to start within days doing that patch on Mearns Avenue. Okay, so the south end, okay.
And that's just a patch.
Yes, yes. I met with the engineer, I gave him some paperwork on what I always say is the Sue Kelly money, which was able to get restored, and that goes for Mearns Avenue in Oak. He's reviewing the paperwork now. The north end sidewalk, sidewalks that we're going to replace, the whole north end on Main Street, I gave that paperwork to the engineer for him to review and fill in the blanks and get it back to the state. From today on, with any grants, in particular, I need to mention Restore New York #1, which we're not doing #2, but #1. The lead agency is the village, and therefore the lead person in charge of the grant is our engineer. The second person in charge, if someone can't get the engineer, is the village clerk. And that's the way this grant will be handled, through the engineer, and then through the clerk, if you can't get the engineer. If there's any questions that any of us have about the grant, and I or the clerk do not know the answer, the clerk will call the engineer to call the state. But just so we have one person, we all can't be talking to the state and all that. So from now on, that's the way it'll be.
But we agreed, though, that if people find grants,
Oh, that's a different thing.
right, they can certainly
Mhm.
let us know, and then we'll deal with our engineering group.
My time here
That
before
we
was
move on.
over $12 million in grants was brought in. Now, I didn't bring $12 million in grants, I had something to do with it, but it was grants that I found out through publications. It was grants that I found out by going to the monthly town village association meetings. It was grants that our engineer told us. It was grants that someone on the street said they heard or they read. So we look for that information. Anyone knows of a grant, come tell us. If we think we need it, if we think it'll fit, if we think we can afford it, we'll go after it. This community does very well with grants. So let's don't let that stop.
So,
Oh, sure. We did last meeting, but to
Okay.
Barbara no, that's fine. We all did it at the last meeting. We should do it one more time. So to Barbara Minetti, for doing the legwork on Restore number 1, we appreciate it. Our engineer went over the paperwork last week. I don't know what day it was. They all, Wednesday, Thursday, right, Shannon?
Thursday,
Tuesday?
Thursday.
Thursday. He has questions, and he's going to find the answers out to them, about them, and we're going to move forward come spring, the best that we can with what he's going to do for us. So that's how that'll work.
And the term sandblasting, it really isn't sandblasting. It's another process, but they call it, generically, it's called sandblasting. Am I right, assuming that?
It's not sandblasting,
It's not sandblasting.
it's removing paint.
Okay, so look, Brian?
Right.
Oh, you know what?
This is what I'll look at in the.
One second. I think I skipped something. Where's the agenda?
Here.
Oh, okay, board comment is next.
Right.
I thought public was. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Right, we're gonna look at this later, right?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll be looking at this in the meeting, specific questions regarding the thing. The center's gonna start, we're doing something with food for people for Thanksgiving. We're also doing a coat drive for vets and for children. And the Park Restaurant came, and they're going to open up on December 5th from 8 AM till 8 PM. If you eat there, then the center gets a 10% of the bill. And then they'll donate that to the center, and then we can start buying supplies. So I'm asking you, do not eat for 2 days prior to that December 5th. All right, thank you. That's it.
Okay.
I just got a couple things. One thing I want to bring up, and I think we're always saying, is about the speeding here in this community. It's got to slow down, and I see the chief back there, and these back roads are just getting bad with this. And the problem is it's getting dark around 4:30. The kids are all out there. I'm seeing it all over the place with these cars. They got to slow down. Somebody's going to get hit out there. It's got to stop. The other thing I want to bring up is, and I don't usually do this as a board member, but there was something put in the paper this week. And it wasn't a letter to the editor. I don't know what it was. It was like an article. And for myself being up here as a board member, I'm here to watch the taxpayer and make sure that their money is spent correctly of what I feel as an elected official. There's a lot of decisions that we face up here, and when something's brought, and I'm speaking for myself, to my attention, I base my answer on how I feel about it. This thing with the buildings here in the village, I grew up in this community. There's nothing more than I'd rather see in this village than this village to spark. But there's one thing we have to understand about the village of Howland Falls. This is hidden here, the village of Howland Falls. It's not like it's off 9W. Believe me when I tell you, when these tourists go past 9W, if they have never heard of Howland Falls before, they're not going to come in here. Okay? With Main Street, with the shops that close and the shops that are still open right now, the way we got bashed in that letter to the editor, I'll call it a letter to the editor, and my feelings was a little bit unfair. It's about making a decision up here. It's not about taking a project and just crushing it, the way it sounded in that letter. What we're trying to do here as board members, we are trying to bring something back to this village here. And it's very difficult when you have a village such as this that's sort of hidden behind an area. The tourists that come here that go to visit West Point, if they don't know Howland Falls, we see it all the time, only during the football games, they go on the other side, on the other street. Our attention should be also brought towards 9W. One thing that I would like to see, which I hear a lot about, is where the old guard project may start. That motel needs to be taken down, okay? I don't like the way that looks up there. But again, for myself being a board member and what I seen in that article that was written, I think that was really unfair. There was questions that were asked to the individual that was here. There was no answers given. That's why I based my decision on a nay. I don't know if anybody wants to reflect in on this, but that's how I feel. And Barbara, I'll say this straight to you, okay? I commend you for all that you do here in this village. You do a lot for somebody. I mean, you do a lot. But I have to be able to be up here and to be able to say on a decision what I think is right or wrong. All the facts aren't here yet on that, and that's what my decision was based on. And I hope you could accept that. If you can't, I'm sorry.
Would you like for me to speak?
No,
No.
no, no. Hold on, or no?
I'm done.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay. You think it's so much, come back. Charles?
We're skipping. Okay.
We should do it.
Well, since we've been talking about grants, I have from time to time expressed extreme frustration about many of the state grants that we are not eligible for because of the census tracts. The village clerk and I are the two designated people on beginning to prep for the 2020 census. There's a form, Gina, I'll bring it in tomorrow. I thought it actually was the Luca updates. It's just identifying who we are. To his credit, Bruce Terwilliger down in the building department, I asked him for an update on where the properties have been that have been taken down. And it turns out in the last 3 to 5 years, there have actually been 7 buildings that have been taken down. Unfortunately, so far, I think there's one coming on, but only one new building has been built. So hopefully with the help of people in the community responding to the next census, we can get a more realistic read on what our actual median household income is, because currently what's being reported is astronomically high, and it knocks us out of the running for most grants. The other interesting thing that I've gotten from the building inspector is addresses, about 5, that have been repeat offenders. Now, in talking to the inspector, it sounds like we've got to bring in our attorney, because we can do a resolution that causes us to fix the property and then attach it to taxes. When you start doing the progressive fines, and it actually says or imprisonment, it brings in the judicial system. So we need to decide if we want to go that route, and does it
Well, I
benefit
mean,
us?
the building inspector doesn't need an attorney to issue an appearance ticket. An appearance ticket sends the person to justice court. Municipalities handle it in many ways. Some want the village attorney or some other attorney, a prosecutor, to appear with the building inspector. Others, the building inspector reviews. And it's really up to the municipality, and it also depends on, how strong the building inspector feels the case is. So, if it's, here are these 5 times, I've posted, I've sent, I've mailed, these are repeat offenders. In my opinion, that seems pretty cut and dried. And I would assume that you wouldn't necessarily need an attorney to present that case to, the justice court, your local judge. Where typically you'll want an attorney is if there's a question of whether those were issued properly or whether there was a violation. So a lot depends on the completeness of the record that gets put before the judge.
Elise, if you have a property that has had, let's say, 4 or 5 violations, can we bump it up significantly, or do we have to do the first appearance as if it was only the second violation?
You mean under your current code, or do you want to just increase fines?
Well, under the current code.
Under the current code, it's progressive in front of the Justice Department, the judge, and it's pretty onerous, because it's I think it's a per day. I mean, it's pretty onerous. Plus there's jail time that can be involved. Now, but that's up to the judge. I mean, once someone goes in front of the judge, it's the judge's decision. He can
Well,
say,
some of these are absentee landlords, obviously, too.
well, then, you can do 15 days. I mean, you can order someone to appear to report to the local police.
If they fail to show up, I assume we win, hands down.
Pretty much.
Do they get sent the bill, or the fine, and,
Yeah, there's a judgment issued, and if they don't pay, they're in contempt, and that's even more. So, yes, you get the Justice Department, the courts involved, and that's a pretty onerous for a property owner. The other thing you can do if you want is, right now, the way your code is written, you can levy the actual cost, plus you can add a fine. If you want to increase those fines, you can revise your local law, and I would probably say, you would put the fines by resolution rather than actually having them in the local law. The issue, though, is if no one's paying it, I mean, I don't know if that's gonna be, no matter how much you charge, is that gonna be enough to get these properties taken care of?
Well, Charlie hit on a large part of the problem. It's not the totality of it, but when these banks take back a building, or repossess, foreclose, to get them, very seldom, if at all, do they, after they're given a notice to come in and cut their lawn and that, and whatever the overgrowth is, they don't do it. They just don't show up.
These are zombie properties we're talking about?
I guess you could say some of them are that. So, maybe I'm in favor of, okay, money doesn't solve everything. We'd rather have a nice looking piece of property than to collect a fine, I understand that. But the nature of the beast is there's gonna be unsightly properties. So we might as well get as much as we can for the taxpayer. Because we sit up here, it takes up, this is the least of the problem, takes up our time. It's downstairs. I never realized, I mean, they have to keep track of this until we get paid by taxes, which could be a year from now, depending on when the last tax was paid. It's quite an ordeal downstairs. I was surprised, I never thought of it, what they go through.
Many villages and towns are really having an issue with this, and
Yeah.
there's, first thing you can do is, it's pretty simple to just add a little change to your local law that says, by resolution, you can set the fines.
because if we can start getting these fines, we'll build up a little cushion, so when we have to pay to fix a property, we've got some money to spend instead of having to wait for the taxes to come in.
So can our code, Elise, if we choose, designate that your first time here, whatever the fine is, whatever it is, okay, make up numbers, 100,
250.
200, whatever it is. The next time, the second time, it's
Absolutely.
$50 more. The third time, it's $50 more. I'm just throwing numbers out. It could be $100 more each time. Can we do that?
Yes, we can draft it's a simple change to your code that would simply say, you, the board, by resolution can set these fines, and by resolution you can change them. And then you sit down and you decide how much you want, you know, to charge for the administrative fee, for this and that and the other, for multiples. So you can graduate it just as you would, just as the justice court does. Okay, so you can do that. The zombie properties is a slightly different animal, because now there's, I'm sure you know, there's state legislation that requires, once they foreclose, actually, it used to be, they had to foreclose and take title, otherwise they didn't have to touch the property. Now, the state law is that once you issue a notice of foreclosure, if people abandon the property, then you, the bank, must maintain it. And you're supposed to report that. There's a number you can call the Department of State, and it's gonna supposedly show you all the zombie properties and what banks own them. So that is in effect. I don't know how robust that is yet, because it's a pretty new law. So that's a little more in your arsenal, but that, even that is a problem.
Let's go back to, instead of the getting a notice of violations that we always take care of up here, instead of that route, is there's, if I understood you right, there's also the route of the building inspector issuing an appearance ticket.
That's the way it is now, if we
It's the
were.
way it's, in other words, now, you would issue notice of violation,
Right.
et cetera. If it's not remedied, his next step is to issue an appearance ticket. You will appear in court on such and such date, and now you're subject to the graduated fines and prison time.
But where did, I'm sorry, it's me. Now, a person gets a notice of violation, they either correct it, fine. If they don't correct it, they have to come here.
Well, they get the opportunity under due process to say, no, wait a minute, I cut my grass, he's wrong, or he had the, so that's why you have these public hearings. You will always have those, but the next step doesn't necessarily be yet another notice of violation. At some point,
They go to court.
Okay, so when they come here, like we do almost every other meeting,
Mhm.
if we choose, and they haven't remedied the violation,
That should be the first opportunity, and then after that, then
so if, when does going to court kick in?
the second.
well, the building inspector.
The second notice
That's.
Right.
of that same violation?
Right.
That's actually at the discretion of the building inspector. So in other words, he always has the opportunity after the issue of the notice and the violation, the remedy, if they don't remedy, he can issue an appearance ticket. Most building inspectors will wait until it's multiple violations and they're just kind of at their wits' end, and then they'll go to court.
Or if the municipal board tells them, take them to court.
Well, I think what I can look into, if you as a village board feel that, you know, after so many times you want the building inspector to issue an appearance ticket, let me look into how your code can be modified to do that, if that's what you want. If that's what you want.
I personally like the idea of being able to change to the penalties by resolution, taking it
You can do
away
that
from
too.
and maybe escalate the fines,
You can do that.
build up a bank account to help us cover the cost of
But
fixing
wouldn't
these
that have to go through
properties.
the court then?
No,
No.
if we change,
Or you wanna do that, change? Yeah.
that's my personal take on it. You would still have the opportunity, if you have some terrible violator, they can still be taken to court, but
That's correct. And right now, you have fines. I mean, you have the cost plus 25 and 75 on top. What this would do is a minor change to your code would say, instead of 25 and 75, and make those numbers up, the village board by resolution will set fines and can modify that in the same way. I try now to write all the code that way, because they're, you know, that code is, how old is that code? So $25 or $75 as a fine really doesn't even cover the administrative costs anymore. So you should be able to modify. You can't make tons of money on it, but if you feel that, you know, every time this is issued, it takes $150 worth of administration to deal with it, then that's what the fine should be.
And I know there's at least one property that has had 5 of these.
Then perhaps that person should be issued an appearance ticket. And if it's an absentee, absentee land, as long as you know who owns it, you're a bit ahead of the game. Many times, certainly, you didn't even know, you couldn't even find, because these mortgages were just shopped around so much, you couldn't even figure out who owned the
Yeah,
property.
that's true.
I want to end on a high note. I have a happy item. Cindy Maudlin is in the audience, and Cindy and I have been working on the final report for the Art Walk 2017. It was a beautiful book filled with a lot of great articles, many of them written by Mary Jane with photos, and we did receive a $2,500 grant from the county tourism office to help promote the Art Walk. I really hope that they do it again next year. It was valuable money. And I think the Art Walk group that handled the logistics did a superb job, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just before we get off that subject, would the board like me to draft that change to the local law to the resident, so that you can, by resolution, set the fines?
Yeah.
I think you ought to have a discussion with Gina in on this.
Yeah,
We
let's,
will then-
let's bring the clerk in on it. It's gonna probably be yes, but let's all just talk about it a little bit more, even if somehow we can do it together, it would be really good.
You don't have to set the fines. All you would do, it's just like the vehicle. You can change the law so you can set the rates, but you don't have to set the rates
At this point in time.
at this point in time. So
Oh.
just let me know.
All I know is this, yeah, the answer is yes to you. And all I know is this, and I think the board feels this way too. I'm tired of sitting up here, and every time I look down on the agenda, I see 3 or 4 property maintenances. And many of them are repeats. I know the addresses, I know some of the addresses. But even more than that, I don't wanna see one. You know, I'm really getting tired, I'm tired of it. And it's been going on for a long time. And it doesn't help anyone. If there's a property that is a continuous violator on your street, it brings down the value of your house. God forbid if it's next door to your house. Not only do you have to look at it every day, but it brings down the value. I think we have to send a strong, my point is that the strongest signal that we can send to the community, I've got to cut my grass, you don't have to plant flowers and be garden of the month. But you gotta be proper. We all know what that means.
No garbage, no.
We all know what that means. Gee,
You know,
Jeez.
you come down Mount
Tired of
Avenue, and you hit the main street, there's some horrendous garbage all over. That's not a good way for people to come in here.
Brian, you hit one of the worst areas in town, the bottom of Mountain Avenue.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna make it even more, let people, they'll be able to figure this out. If you're the 3rd car back from the stop sign, you tell me what you're looking at. You tell me, I know what I'm looking at, the 3rd car back. And I don't like it. And I don't care what day it is. An hour after the trash guy picks up the trash, it looks like that again. I'm sorry. You don't have to vote for me, whoever lives in that particular, or whatever that is, I don't really care. When I leave here, I want the community to be cleaned up. And that's a filthy mess down there.
And it's interfering on Cook Street.
You talk
too.
about
I was down there
gateway.
last week talking with them, it's all
Gateway
over the
to what?
streets. On
Joe,
Cook Avenue.
complaints, I did hear complaints about that property and passed them on to the building inspector.
Yeah, well, Cook Street too, Cook Lane.
And I'm sorry, there's gonna be people that disagree with this. We shouldn't have to pass that on to the building inspector. Well, no, I mean, doesn't he come down that street when he comes to work every day? Well, I do. You gotta tell him about that piece of property?
Yep.
I mean, really? Brian, trying.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it, I'm sorry.
Wasn't there one time a code enforcer?
Yeah,
Did we have that?
yeah, the village had a code enforcer, yep. Worked pretty well too.
Maybe we'll have a discussion.
We should talk about that, at least a discussion, on budget time.
All right.
The village is old, we're old. And we need to take care of what we have. You know, the older you get as a person, the more you're going to the doctor, right? To take care of yourself. That's the same thing with what's going on around here.
So let's have that with the discussion then.
Thank you. I love that. Thank you. Jim?
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, just a couple of things with the wastewater treatment facility. Just so everybody knows, some of the average volume that was treated at the wastewater treatment plant was 0.668 million gallons a day. There was approximately 5.1 inches of rain last month, so that was substantial. The DPW has been out there cleaning the storm drains, so they're working properly. Another thing to note was that there was a sewer main leak down near Havens Road, where the sewer department, along with the DPW, worked in conjunction to get that fixed. It was one of the coldest nights in October, and they were out there. It was after one of our meetings. No complaints from them. They were out there working hard to get that street opened up for the next business day. So, pat on the back to those guys doing that. Just so everybody knows, we talked about the wastewater treatment belt press tonight. They're moving ahead with that, and we processed through the belt press that's down there right now, 7.3 ton last month. And that was only with it being in 12 days of operation. So if we can get that up and running for more than 12 days, it's gonna be a plus, for us. They also were out, cleaning and flushing some of the sewer mains with TAMP, and I believe Earth Care. Besides that, just, the DPW really needs, a pat on the back, and when you see them and you go by them, they're doing a great job out there. They're getting ready for winter, so I see with the roads being paved, there's a lot of work behind the scenes that people don't see that's getting done.
That's correct.
So, just my pat on the back for now. That's all I got, Joe.
They did a nice job on the hardware store on Main Street. They were there Saturday and Sunday.
Sidewalk.
I was there last night speaking with them. They did a great job on that sidewalk. It looks good.
Thank you. Public comment? If there's no public comment, I'd like to have a motion to go into executive session. Elise, I'm sorry I have to ask you this. What do I call this?
Advice of counsel.
Advice of counsel. Okay, may I have a motion?
I'll make one.
Motion by trustee Lizzy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Ramus, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Is that still on? We want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, thank you.